I'm John Felt, and this is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Weather Briefing, April 7th, 2019. It is spring, a lot going on, and it looks like it's going to be quite active with a wide variety of weather over the next week. So over the last week we had enhancement of precipitation in a couple spots. We had it over the west coast, and we also had enhancement of precipitation over the south central U.S. This was due to an onshore flow, and I'll be talking about that again this week. Now, spring has been slow to arrive in areas in blue. The northern extent is anywhere it's shaded. We're beginning to see some signs of initial budding of the vegetation, and that means that once we get this here in full swing, we start to get friction when it rains with the water runoff. We get increased evapotranspiration, so that slows the amount of water that gets into rivers. But note on the upper Mississippi here basin, we still don't have that, so any rain that falls is going to be more prone towards runoff. But there certainly are some signs of spring. We're going to have a chance for severe storms today over the south central U.S. Look at dew points here. That's in the 60s and even 70s, so that's a sign of spring. We get those dew points. Temperatures at nighttime can't drop all that much. They remain high. They start to warm those soils a lot quicker, so we are seeing definitely some signs of spring, and actually a transition where we have alternating periods of cold and warm. That's typical for spring, and we'll be definitely seeing some of that. So I did mention soil temperatures. 60 degrees is sort of a critical threshold for things like corn and crops for germination. So you can see it is working up. It has been delayed due to the cold weather, but it is beginning to inch its way northward. Now, you're going to hear in this briefing, though, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to stall again, because I'm going to be talking about a lot of cold weather as we go over the next week to 10 days. So one of the big stories has been flooding over the Mississippi River drainage and the Missouri, and almost all the snow's gone now, a bit more, 1 to 4 inches, but for the most part, I think the snow that has been over the upper Midwest has melted and is now in the rivers. Now, having said that, I've got quite a twist in the forecast ahead, and that means that this story is not yet over this spring. So we have a number of spots in high flow, generally where we have had the onshore flow here over the Pacific Northwest, especially Oregon State, Northern California, and then the major rivers and its tributaries over the Midwest due to the snow melt this spring. Okay, so right now what we've had a number of pulses of water coming through. You know, you might remember the Ohio and the lower Mississippi were busy late in the winter. That was the first round. Second round was a pulse of water that came with the initial melting of the snow up to the north, and that's peaking in this region. Third round is the recent snow melt over the last week, and that's coming down through this area. And actually we're going to have another one up here coming ahead as we work over the next couple weeks. Okay, so let's talk about the forecast. Well, right now we look at the jet stream. There is a system moving through here, but look at all the energy here. Lots of strong winds are coming right in here, and looking at that jet stream, that's going to tell us that we're going to have yet another week of a chance for some heavy precipitation along the west coast as those winds blow into that area. I think the other story here, weather story, is going to be an abrupt shift. I sent out some information to some of my ag clients last week about this trend change, where we're going to get a dip in the jet stream. We're going to have this, look at all this blue here. That means the jet stream is further south than normal. And that's going to be the big trend as a cold front pushes through the U.S. this week. We're going to usher this unusually warm spring-like weather out and go back towards an early spring type pattern. And in some areas, a winter pattern is going to prevail. So we look at temperatures, we can see that as well. We can see the temperatures coming back here with lots of blue. So we start out with some mild weather, we go some colder weather, and then as we get into maybe a week from now, we start to moderate that and come back to normal. So it looks like maybe about a week, 5 to 7 days of unusually below normal temperatures and then moderating back towards normal. So I think there are going to be 3 areas of precipitation we need to keep an eye on. The first will be an enhancement of precipitation, same areas as last week, so that's going to pose a risk of some debris flow, some flash flooding, urban flooding, tributary flooding, especially over Oregon and far northwest California, scattered parts of Washington State as well. Intermountain precipitation. So the west coast precipitation will be one area. This will be the second area over the upper Midwest. And then this will be the third area, and this looks like some very heavy rain this weekend into early this week, and then again about a week from now. But this is the interesting event this week I want to bring out to your attention. This is a system coming through midweek, ushering in the cold air. And look at this. Can you believe this? Models have been consistent now. I wouldn't get hung up exactly where these bands will be, but it does look like there will be some heavy snow again over parts of the Missouri and upper Mississippi. So I do expect any snow, even in below normal temperatures this time of year, is probably going to melt fairly quick. So we're going to have another pulse of water coming down the upper Mississippi. Whether or not it's higher than the past crest, I doubt it, but it is definitely some water content in here if we do get this amount of snow, so it could be significant, the crest that comes down with us. So the good news in here is at least there's no additional heavy rain on top of this, at least right now. We'll have to keep an eye on this. And I don't see any heavy rain just to its south, so that means that the flood wave will attenuate as it comes down into the middle Mississippi. So as bad as this is, it could be worse if we had this time of year with heavy rain on top of that, and I don't see that scenario right now. And you can see that right here. This is the next 10 day. Here's your snow band, and here's your very heavy rain down here. But in the middle here, I don't see anything all that significant. There'll be rain, but it won't be heavy. So when this comes down, it'll attenuate as it goes down through this reach. Okay, 6 to 10 day, 8 to 14. We see the below normal temperatures over a large part of the area. This is right in the boundary here between the warm and the cold. Warm and moist, cold and dry. That'll be the action spot. That'll be the boundary where we're going to have storms and heavy rain, and you can see the above normal over those areas. So lots of weather hazards this week. We have an enhanced wildfire risk with high winds and dry conditions. We have the heavy precipitation, most likely in the form of snow. We have heavy rain. And then week 2, I wanted to point out, and added that in, here's week 2 for heavy precipitation over this region. So lots of things to talk about this week. Some traits of winter, some of spring, everything from wildfires, severe storms, heavy rain, and snow. I guess that's spring. What can you expect? So that's this week's briefing. I hope you all have a great week. Take care.